guys, this is Lindsay and welcome back to my channel. And I'm just gonna start off by saying I'm so sorry. I am a little bit sick. I can't really talk too well, but I still wanted to give you guys my January plan with me. So I'm pretty much gonna take it a little bit easy with this voiceover. But initially I wanted to do something really different from what I did last year. And last year I actually did where the wild things are, but kept it super minimal, and I really kept it minimal with color. So this time around I wanted nothing but a buttload of color, and so I decided to really use more pinks and blues, which I usually don't do, at least to my knowledge. I don't really use those colors, but I thought it'd be a nice cute, change for the new year. And I don't know why this time around I felt very bold and very experimental, and so I decided to film in front of a window just because I thought it was a nice change for me, and also I had a lot of more elbow room. I usually use a light box when it comes to my recordings. So if anything, if the light kind of changes here and there, I apologize. But eventually I was doing my cover page for I think at least 40 minutes to an hour. I don't know. I'm very slow when it comes to drawing and coloring. I'm not very super fast. So I definitely only managed to do a little bit in front of the window until it got really dark. So when it does get to the point, you will see a shift in, I guess, environment for my recordings. But I wanted to try something new because why not? And this time around, if you asked me, Lindsay, what is this theme? It is pretty, it is gorgeous, but what is it? Well, I wanted to go more for a retro futurism. At least that's what I found it to really be like on Pinterest. So here are some inspiration that I grabbed from Pinterest that pretty much helped carry me through my theme, because it is pretty weird, I will be honest. But for me, I thought that doing something like this would be very interesting, because when I think about it, bear in mind my logic sometimes is kind of questionable, but to me, when I think of like space, astronauts, technology, I think of it as like a hard concept versus something that's like butterflies, flowers, clouds. I think of it as more of a soft complex. So to me, when you have hard and soft, it just has a really cool cohesion to it. I don't know if I'm having the right words to describe this. This is at least where my mind went. But I thought it was really nice and very cute, just because it's like when you mix orange and blue, or red and green, or purple and yellow. Like, you have two contrasting things that don't necessarily go together, but it works. And that's how I really see this as. So I decided to kind of keep this very light, flowy, but futuristic approach. And if you're not really too good at drawing astronauts, please trust me, practice definitely does make perfection, because I hardcore sucked at drawing astronauts. And if I had to be honest with you guys, it literally took me maybe like 3 weeks to sketch everything out for this plan with me, because I was just really unhappy with how everything was coming out. Sometimes when you think of something, it seems like a great idea at first, but then when you really put it to paper, it just kind of falls apart. And that's kind of how I felt a lot during this setup. And so I will be honest, 2 weeks really took a long time for me to sketch everything, especially the astronaut, because sometimes it was just too hard for me to really be able to draw an entire person. I'm not really good at drawing anatomy by any means, so I kind of played with how I knew what my limitations were. So that's why for like my cover page, There's no hands and there's no legs. Kept it very simple. And speaking of simple, I kept my quote page just because I felt like a lot was going on with these 2 pages, and I really just kept it just to 2 words, Moonchild. 1, because of the BTS song Moonchild, but also the fact that, if you really think about it, astronauts are really moon children. Well, if there's more than one, sometimes. But I thought the play on words was very nice. Okay, so here we are at my light box. So definitely the lighting has changed. And I have to give credit to the content creators that film in front of a window because, wow, you're really working against time. And I just can't do that. Usually when I do my recordings, I can record all the way up until like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and not have to worry about lighting. So I give props to those. But here, I was struggling on this monthly calendar for the longest, and I actually had to skip this page and kind of sketch out everything else just because I really didn't know how I wanted this to go. At first, I wanted the calendar boxes to kind of float in the air, but then with an A5 journal, it just didn't really work too well in terms of spacing for the drawings. And then I just was struggling, to be honest. But I think that's the perks of doing bullet journaling, is how to overcome obstacles and not be so afraid of them. Now, if you guys can't really draw the astronauts, or you're not really into that type of aesthetic, then you could definitely skip out on it and really focus more on a very cute, airy, almost like a Pinterest, Instagram aesthetic where it's just really like based on certain colored aesthetics. So you can really focus more on the pink, or you can focus more on the blues from the butterflies. But I don't know, I wanted to basically challenge myself like I always do, and I will be honest, it took a long time for me to really come to like this theme because, like I said, I struggled a bit with it, and I do like the end result, but it's definitely very doodle heavy. So if you can bypass that, then you'll really enjoy this theme too. So when it comes to planning this out in every single monthly setup, I don't really have a cookie cutter plan of what I'm gonna do, and I kind of just roll with it. And here is a good example because I superly messed up my title for my monthly setup. It looked ugly, horrendous. I wanted to like toss it into the pit fire and call it a day, and I didn't know how I would be able to save it, but thankfully just cutting like a piece of my bullet journal paper out, glued it. I was good and great, but I kept it really simple, and I ended up doing like this purple pink blue based color. It reminded me of like a Barbie pink, and I just did normal calligraphy and made a little bit of a gradation to it. So I made the bottom part of the word of January a lot darker than the top part of it, just to give it a little bit more to itself because I thought it looked too plain, and I'm kind of glad how it came out. So now we moved on to my habit section, and I really was conflicted about even doing a habit tracker just because last month for December I really did not use my bullet journal. I was so busy with working and then gift shopping, doing my yearly setup, and then now this plan with me. I never got the time to really take my bullet journal out and sit down and basically plan out my weeks, so I didn't really get to keep up with my habits. And this time around I really questioned whether do I need it this month, should I still have it. So I went ahead and still included it just to see if it works. But if it ends up not being the case, then I most likely won't bring it back for February. And this time I also did not include a habit, well, not a habit, but like a mood tracker. Reason why is because for January I feel like it's like a weird free-for-all. For me personally, I am just always tired, or I'm catching up on things that I never got the chance to really do with the holiday season. So it's one of those like my gotta get things done, but kind of working like a robot in a sense. So I don't really have like a lot of time to sit down and mark how I'm feeling for that day. I just think that it'll be a little bit unnecessary for January at least. And February is more of a happier month for me. I'm not saying that January isn't, but February definitely I have some things that I do look forward to. So I think that would be pretty cool to have my mood tracker there. But I don't know. For my habit tracker, I just kept it like the simple, my water intake, my plants, and then my vitamins, which I've been kind of slacking a little bit on, and also waking up by 8 in the morning. Lately, I feel like because holiday hours have shifted, I have to wake up almost very early every day. So I know that portion of it is already on track. But since now we're gonna go more into what I call like the dead season, nothing ever happens in January and February. The hours are gonna be pushed back to what they were. So now it really makes me give the incentive to get my butt out of bed every day and not be kind of lazy, because I feel like if I sleep in too long, my productivity doesn't really spark and I just don't want to do anything. Are you guys kind of like that as well? If you oversleep, you just don't want to do anything? Because that's kind of me, and that's what I'm kind of trying to prevent. So with my playlist, I actually named it Vibes because when I think of this theme, I think of a very airy, free-floating, and just very like calming headspace. And so I honestly wanted to make this part a little bit more just free-floating compared to my habit tracker, which does seem a little bit more like cluttered and close together and a little bit more structured. So I wanted to be the exact opposite. And I actually ended up putting the Vibes playlist header at the bottom, but I was actually inspired by, like I said, that like retro futurism, and I was actually inspired by like the 60s diner logo style where it's like all in block letters. So I decided to do that with a little bit of like the plants popping out to still pull it together with everything else going on. And because I messed up this in my monthly setup, I was actually pretty worried I was gonna mess it up again here. So I was very, very cautious of how I colored this in and how I planned it, because I did not want to mess up again. If I did, I felt like I was gonna cry, just because I don't want to keep fixing things that may or may not even work out, and that's what I'm afraid of. And it never fails, I actually did end up messing up again on the Vibes playlist, and so I didn't know how I was gonna put it all together. Like I said, nothing's really ever planned, and it just kept turning out really, really bad, to the point where I just stopped recording and just tried to fix it off camera. And finally I came to some type of solution to it, but I literally cut so many pieces of bullet journal paper out just to fix it. It looks pretty decent now. If you ask me personally how I feel about it, I will give it a 7 out of 10. Reason why is because I kept feeling like I was going through emotional like trauma as I was doing my playlist, just because each and every time it was just like worse and worse and worse, and I felt like my heart was just sinking with each and every time. But eventually it worked. It's decent, I'm okay with it, but it's definitely my most heartbreaking spread in this monthly setup, I will be honest, but I'm not too sad about it now. It's fixed. So I just want to let you guys know that sometimes with these bullet journals, you think everything kind of goes as planned. Wrong. Never. It never does. And I think if anything, it keeps you on your toes on how to fix your mistakes. But getting back on track, we're here at my weekly spread, and I didn't really know how I wanted to also plan this, just like with everything else so far, but I decided to basically keep it a very minimal, I guess, approach to a weekly spread. So I brought it back in terms of the classic 6-box squared layout and made my other page more of a quote page, just because I don't really see myself being too busy in January, at least to my knowledge I won't be, but I wanted to dedicate a whole spread for my quote page in terms of playing on with the aesthetic of we're each other's moons, having the quote above, having a gradient effect, so it looks very purposeful, but also something that's very nice and aesthetically pleasing whenever I do have to flip back to my weekly spread, at least for this week of January. If you guys made it this far, I want to say thank you. I really, really appreciate it, just because I know this whole voiceover was a big struggle, especially because I had to do this voiceover in the span of like 3 days because I just kept losing my voice, and even today it's like the worst it's been. So thank you, you guys are awesome, especially because this took me really long as well. I tried doing something that was out of my comfort zone. It really took me on an emotional roller coaster, but at the end of it all, I really did like how it looked. And if you are curious at what type of materials I did use, I'll have it all in the description box below. But pretty much I kept it to like blue based or like cool toned colors. I tried not using so much black and ended up using actually my sepia Micron pens and my white gel pen, just because I feel like too much black makes everything looks a little bit more closed off, whereas if it's very light in color, and especially if you use white, it actually makes it look a little bit more opened and airy. So we're pretty much at the very end of my video, and I want to say thank you once again. It means so much to me, and especially because we're doing another plan with me for the new year. I never really imagined that I'll still be bullet journaling this far along, but without you guys I wouldn't have been able to have done it, and so I can't wait for what 2022 brings us. Oh wow, that sounds so different. But until next time, bye.